Hello friends, and welcome back to Shelley Skylines, BrizVegas. Thanks for stopping by. In today's episode, we're taking a look at the small but significant Brisbane suburb of Petrie Terrace. Following on the theme of some of Brisbane's most historical areas, we'll do a deep dive into some of the classic aspects of Petrie Terrace and the surrounds, and see how we can use this to inform our build of this area. Let's check out some of that now. Over to you, Shelley, in the studio. Petrie Terrace was first established around 1843, at that time known as Green Hills. Still considered a relatively remote part of Brisbane at the time, it was originally reserved as the location for a cemetery, and also a new jail was needed after the original Brisbane jail on Queen Street in the CBD was reaching capacity. Petrie Terrace is an interesting name for this suburb, as it actually takes the name of the main street that was running through the area, which is, you guessed it, Petrie Terrace. Petrie Terrace, the street, was named after Andrew Petrie, who was a pioneer of Brisbane. I learned that the street was given this name as Andrew and his son John Petrie eventually won the contract of this proposed jail to be built with their name then being lended to the street it was built on, Petrie Terrace. The jail was then built in the 1850s and went through a few transformations over the years. It still exists today but has been developed into a little shopping precinct with careful attention paid to respect the heritage of the site. Some of the other main streets in this area are Countess Street, which was the location of the Countess Street Powerhouse. Commissioned in 1897 at the southern end of Countess Street within the Roma Street rail yards, and it supplied power to Brisbane's trams until 1928. I think looking at Roma Street in this area is important as well, and specifically Roma Street Station, as a lot of the development in Petrie Terrace was essentially motivated by its location in relation to this large rail connection in the town. While we're looking at this little perimeter of Petrie Terrace, to the south of the suburb we have Quay Street, which runs right along Coronation Drive and was the location of the first Brisbane burial ground. Established in 1825, there were roughly 265 people buried here until a larger area was later established in the Milton and Paddington areas. Quay Street is also home to one of Brisbane's oldest surviving houses. Built in 1868 at a time when shops and homes shared the streets of the city, by the 1920s most of these residences were demolished to make way for the commercial buildings that came to define the CBD. Fast forward to today, and Davidson's residence is the only large 19th century residence surviving within the boundaries of the CBD. Speaking of the residential in the area, it does have elements of the Queenslander style we mentioned in the last episode, but we're definitely starting to see more of a varied style of buildings. For example, these types of workers' cottages you see here. These were typically built in such a way to accommodate the extremely small area of land it had to exist on. And you'll be pleased to know that Petrie Terrace is also home to a number of terrace-style houses. Terrace houses were quite an uncommon style of house in Brisbane, and even in current times, very few remain. But we can see a few examples of these classic Petrie Terrace terrace houses that still exist today, like these here known as Princess Row. Princess Row is a rare surviving example of terrace houses, constructed in the 1860s, along the newly developing Petrie Terrace. Some of the other interesting architecture styles in this area can be seen with this building known as Shaun. Shaun is essentially a block of flats but incorporates a number of popular interwar architectural styles, including Mediterranean, Old English, and Californian bungalow. I found you can still actually rent a room in this place, despite being a heritage listed building, as it still remains intact, sitting prominently on the corner of Pratton Street and Petrie Terrace. Close by to Shaun sits Hargrave Park, which was originally gazetted in 1875. Hargrave Park remains one of Brisbane's earliest public reserves, including this drinking fountain from 1896. Another interesting part of the area is Baruna Hall, situated on Caxton Street, another notable street in Petrie Terrace. Established in 1884 by the United Brothers Lodge of the Manchester Unity Independent Order of Oddfellows. If you haven't heard this term before, the Oddfellows was a working class friendly society committed to moral improvement and practical welfare by providing things such as low-cost medical insurance. The distinctive dove and handshake symbolism on the facade are reminders of the building's original use. It is still in the area today, recently transformed into a lively music venue known as Lefty's Old Time Music Hall. Speaking of entertainment, some of the oldest pubs in Brisbane still exist in this area, including the Caxton Hotel, residing on Caxton Street close by to Baruna Hall. Next door is also the Lord Alfred Hotel. Both of these pubs were constructed in 1864. So I think small but significant really does sum up this area. It's a really interesting part of Brisbane given this rich history and various landmarks and unique style of houses. The streets laid here at the beginning of Brisbane's development, like Roma Street, Countess Street, and of course Petrie Terrace, still form an important part of the road network in Brisbane to this day. So, you'll see here I did already establish Petrie Terrace. In fact, it was one of the first things I extended out to after I built the CBD when I first started to plan out my map. So I suppose you could say it's already a bit historical. But as we looked at in the video, I think the signature buildings are definitely going to form a large part of what we do here. And I've actually been avoiding it, but I think today I'm quite tempted to take a look at the dev tools in Cities Skylines 2 and see if there is possibly some more specific elements that I might be able to incorporate to really get the vibe here for Petrie Terrace. And one of the things I did originally focus on around here was really just building out this skyline along Coronation Drive, focusing on the commercial and office buildings. But I think what I have seen in this research I've done is I definitely need to incorporate some more of this residential style we have going on around here. And I also don't have Roma Street Station. So if you look at this map, you can see what I'm talking about here. I think I clearly had a thought about where Roma Street was going to be and Countess Street. But I think it's just a little bit out of whack. And I think I obviously named this Petrie Terrace as well, but maybe that is kind of okay. But what I am also seeing here is traffic on this highway, obviously. But if memory serves me right, this highway I put here was just so I could connect to the outside world when I was first building the map. So I suppose I just joined it up at the time because that's just what I did. But I think now is the time to remove this, honestly, because this is going to give us some room to put in Roma Street Station down here. And so I think what I'm going to do first is just some cleanup of this area, and then we'll look at what we've got to do to give it that real Petrie Terrace aesthetic. So let's just get that out of the way first, and yeah, let's go. Okay, so that took some doing, but I think it's looking a lot better now. And what I'm thinking is, if we look at the map again, there's definitely a lot more sort of rail lines in this little part of Roma Street Station. So I'm quite tempted to put the train depot on the back of Roma Street Station here, just to add a few more of those train lines in this section. So let's get that in there now. Alrighty, so I think that's looking a lot better now. We've definitely got representation of those rail lines in this little section here, going right up to the north to connect later. So I think what I'll do now is just focus on filling out this little area here with some more of those streets, so we can pack in a few more of those cool residential buildings we saw. And yeah, let's draw in a few more streets and then we'll get to putting in some of those landmarks. Let's do it. Okay, so speaking of landmarks, the pubs that I mentioned are on Caxton Street, which comes off Petrie Terrace here, so we'll just get that in now. And then there's actually a school in Petrie Terrace. In fact, there's a couple of schools. So what I might do is just move the school to where it needs to go and get that out of the way. Okay, so that's given us some room here to put in some of the streets around coming off Petrie Terrace here. And this is where that old jail I mentioned in the video is as well. It's now known as Victoria Barracks, and it is sitting on this main part of Petrie Terrace up here. I was pondering what building to use for this. I don't know if I necessarily want a jail right in the middle of town here. So I think what I might do is use the police station, just the regular police station, honestly. I think that looks fine. So yeah, let's just put in the regular schmegular police station here, and that'll give us Victoria Barracks. Alright, that looks pretty good, and that helps me visualize a little bit as well, because yeah, the pubs are kind of sitting on the corner here of Caxton Street and Petrie Terrace, sort of adjacent to the barracks, I think. But yeah, I'm still not sure what I want to use for those, honestly. We'll come back to the pubs. So what I might do now instead is actually have a look through some of these objects that we can place with the dev tools. So if you're not sure how to use the dev tools in Cities Skylines 2, there's plenty of other videos that show you how to get into this. But what I might start with is just having a bit of a browse, because there's some really cool stuff that you can do with these things. So for example, you know, there's like a little barrel here that we can place on its own. You know, we've got some other sort of things here, like maybe let's have a look at some of these. Yeah, like a basketball court, or you know, a little boulder. I'm sure these will come in handy, but what I might do is just have a little look through some of the residential buildings and commercial buildings and just see if there's anything a bit more unique that we could use before we also have a look at some of the signature buildings as well. So let's have a little browse. Okay, well that was fun, but I don't think I really found anything quite what I'm looking for. So let's go to the signature buildings now and see if there's anything that resembles some of the houses. Like I'm thinking of Sean and the Davidson's residence, for example. Maybe we'll find something a little bit similar in here instead. Now I'm going to speed this up because honestly it was a bit of a nightmare trying to find where I've put all of these signature buildings. If anyone has a better suggestion on how to relocate these than how I did it using the zoning being turned on essentially, please comment down below and let me know, because I didn't end up finding the thing that I was looking for, and I'm sure there's a better way, so let me know. But let's go on a bit of a treasure hunt for some of these signature buildings and see if we can use them in this area. So my searches led me here to these Rubik apartments. Not exactly what I had in mind, but what I like about this building is it does have a similar color to the Sean building, and it is quite an unusual sort of architectural style, so maybe this is a good one for Sean. Let's whack it over the other side of town and get it in the right address as well. Very good. Okay, now that we've got Sean in place, I think the next thing I'll look at is Princess Row. So Princess Row is on Princess Street, which I don't think I have that here yet. So I'll just draw that in now. And as I was saying, I think the row houses will do just fine for this. So let's get in Princess Street and whack in some row houses and see what it looks like. Now, while we wait for these to grow up a little bit, I think what we might do is just jump across the road and have a look at Hargrave Park now. So Hargrave Park is essentially across the road from this part of where we are in Petrie Terrace. And I think this is another good use of the dev tools. So what we're going to do is have a look for that fountain that we saw. Given it is such a notable part of Hargrave Park. And I think the other thing that is handy about these dev tools is it actually lets you use the different surface areas. So we'll use those as well to give a bit of, variation in the grass coloring, just so it does stand out as a park. So let's draw that in now. All right, loving it, loving it, loving it. I wonder actually if there is a sign object I can use in here, because I noticed there was a large sign to the entrance to the park. I don't think I'll be able to rename the sign, but yeah, maybe this little sign from the dog park works. Yeah, I think these dev tools are going to be really helpful just to add these little touches like this. So I'm definitely going to whack a couple of these in here. Super cute. Now, I'm sure that John Hardgrave, who apparently this park is named after, he lived on Petrie Terrace actually overlooking this park. So I'm sure he'd want a sign with his name on it on this side of the road as well. So let's bung that in there. And while we're looking at some of these grass textures, I think that it's also going to be helpful for the first Brisbane burial ground. So let's jump over to Key Street and have a look at that now as well. Okay, so technically this is where the first Brisbane burial ground was located, kind of under this little overpass that we have going on here. I do really hate that I had to have this tail of a street here, but I just had to use that little trick for that in order to get Petrie Terrace and Countess Street to be named separately. But anyway, let's draw in the Brisbane burial ground now. To do that, as I mentioned, I'm gonna go back into this object stuff here, and let's look for the grass surface. I think I used number 1 over in Hardgrave Park, so why not use a different kind? So I'll just draw this in now, and I'm not gonna lie, while I'm doing this, I'm having some morbid thoughts about the availability of tombstones in this object editor. Yeah, I wish I could get, maybe I can't get onto there. So yeah, I'm having some morbid thoughts while I'm drawing this about possibly looking for some tombstones in here, because if I can put a dog park sign, surely there's a tombstone, and there is. So what does this look like exactly? Because I'm pretty certain they never relocated, I guess, the graves. So maybe this will be our little nod back here to a bit of history in this part of town. So maybe we'll just haphazardly place a few tombstones around here. And yeah, let's see, do they have writing on them actually? Oh, they do, but I can't see what it says. So my apologies to whoever is allaying here, but I think that's a morbid little touch there from Shelley Skylines. Now, as you can see, these trees are turning with the seasons. Now, Brisbane is extremely hot, like we talked about in the last episode, so entering into the fall season isn't, or autumn as we call it in Australia, isn't entirely accurate. It would be good, and I know I can do this in the dev tools, essentially control the seasons, but after some of the troubles I had with terraforming with the water when I was drawing the Brisbane River, I'm very, very hesitant and nervous to mess with anything like the seasons or the water very much, because I almost lost my entire city and its progress in the process of doing that. So we won't do that today. I'll just fix up some of these. All right. Brisbane's first burial ground is complete. Okay, so while we're over here, this is also where Davidson's residence was. Sorry, I just can't get over this silly little cemetery here. So the Davidson's residence. Let me just remind myself the address of this place. Okay, so Davidson's residence is on Key Street. Where did Key Street go? I know I had Key Street in here. Ah, here we go. Okay, so technically it's at 66 Key Street. I wonder if we can get it to actually be on that same number. Unfortunately, the bridge is there. But if we look at the picture again of this, it's definitely kind of nestled in with the road running next to it. So I think what I'm going to do is put it right next to the bridge here. Now, Davidson's residence is a bit more of a traditional kind of looking house, I think. It's just like a 2-story house sitting on the hill there. So what I'm going to do is just check what the zoning is here available. So because I think what I'm going to do is just jump back into that object view to look for the house for this one so that we can get the one that we want. And the thing about putting actual houses down manually using these dev tools is you do need to have the residential zoning kind of lining up with the dimensions of what you're selecting in the editor. So I think what we'll look at is a 2x4, maybe a medium residential 2x4 if it's not too big, and maybe that's what we'll put in here. So let's have a look. Okay, so not an exact replica by any means, but I think it's kind of cool to, yeah, just have this little, oh yeah, actually, sorry, the one thing you've got to do is also make sure it's zoned correctly. Uh-oh. Why did that happen? So it's zoned as European in 2x4. So I don't know what it doesn't like about that. It's EU low density. I don't know why it's having a problem with that. We'll see if it survives. But noting that we can rename these, let's just jump back over here actually. And I noticed that I did actually put this in the wrong spot. It is meant to be on Petrie Terrace. So a little bit too big. Yeah, maybe it's gonna go right there. And we'll rename this to Sean. I guess I won't be able to rename all three of these, but we can see here that the Princess Street row houses have sprung up here. No terraces, unfortunately. So speaking of residential, I think what I might do is just chuck in a few more streets around here, just referring to the map because I think it does look a little bit bare, honestly. So I'll do that, and I'll do some regular zoning around some of these notable things that I've put down, and we'll see where we're up to. Okay, just before I forget, the other thing going on around here near Caxton Street is also like a fast food place, so conveniently located by the pub for you to get something on your way home after a big night out. And so I think it's almost got a bit of a retro aesthetic as well, so I think this little diner over here might be good to also introduce that here along Petrie Terrace. But let us carry on. Okay, I think unfortunately because of the lack of demand, it's going to take a little while for this to fill out. So what I might just do last of all is finally plop down the Caxton Hotel, the Oddfellows, and also the LA Hotel. But I thought I would just check out what might have already spawned around here, because maybe it's fine. Yeah, it doesn't really look like the Oddfellows building, which, you know, fair enough. Definitely not a pub there. Okay, I'll see what I can find. I was thinking down here there's a few signature buildings around this. I was thinking down here there's a few. That is what I was looking for before. Alright, I was going to use this for Sean because when I was looking at it online, I saw the terrace fencing and the pink colouring and whatnot. But I guess we already have Sean now, so let's use this as our Caxton Hotel. Okay, we've got Harry's, Caxton Hotel, LA Hotel, Lefty's Old Time Music Hall. It's all going on in Petrie Terrace. Now, it is going to take a long time for this to build out, and that might be a good segue over to Spring Hill. So you can see that while we've been over messing about in Petrie Terrace, Spring Hill is still taking a while to come along, and I think that's just what happens when I'm building this city, how I'm building it, not really following demand, not really following where people would prefer to have things zoned and whatnot. So we'll keep following the progress. I think that is enough for today's episode. We have completely overhauled what we had here for Petrie Terrace. We finally have Roma Street Station, which I think was important to finish this area. We've got these main streets here that come off the main highways and bridges that lead into the north side of Brisbane. We've gotten to play with the dev tools, and we have used our textures. People are loving Hardgrave Park, following down the path, checking out the old fountain. We've got old mate John Hardgrave across the road surveying his park with delight, I am sure. And then we also built Brisbane's first burial ground. I think this is potentially my favourite part of this area at the moment, but we'll see what happens as everything grows out. So yeah, thanks for watching. I do very much appreciate it. Let me know what you want to see next. I'm not really tied to where to go from here. You know, we could very much go to Milton, and you might have spotted I've cheekily been using the CIA building as a Suncorp Stadium stand-in, so we obviously need to put that back. We also really need to build out the Valley and Kangaroo Point areas as well, so feel free to drop your suggestions down below. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, thanks, bye.